When did you go to UCF?
I went there from 1981 until 1985.
Okay. And where did you study? What was your...
I had a pre-law degree. I think it was called legal studies at the time.
Okay. And you were in other activities, though, too. You were in band?
Yeah, I primarily picked UCF to go to marching band there, and it was close to my parents and not too far. And I was a sorority sister for Alpha Chi Omega, and I was a little sister for fraternity Kappa Sigma.
AKO. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
That was shortly after they chartered.
I think they were there, I don't know, maybe about 10 years.
Have you always lived in Brevard County?
Yeah, so I grew up here and in Merritt Island, and I was born at the hospital right down the street at Wusthof. I lived in Orlando 4 years going to school, and I got married right out of college. My husband already had a job in Daytona, so I went there where I lived, and then back here years later in 2001.
Right. So you're pretty much at heart a Brevard.
Yeah,
Resident.
Central Brevard.
What are you doing now?
I'm a paralegal for a big law firm,
Okay.
so I've, been able to use my degree. I was very happy about that.
Okay. I guess the first thing I wanted to get into was just the medical challenges you had over the past several years. Has it been?
Yeah, 10 years ago, I found out I had cancer from a simple mammogram, and so I remember I was actually going with my friends to the UCF game in Memphis. I had the mammogram right before then, and I got a call to come back, which I went after the game, and I was like, what do you mean I have to come back? I already had it. And then they had me do a diagnostic one, and that's when they discovered I had a lump in the right side. And I eventually had a lumpectomy, and I went through, about 6 weeks of radiation after that. And then, everything seemed to be fine. And 10 years went by, and then
But the lumpectomy wasn't a mastectomy, or?
No, that was 10 years ago. It was just a lumpectomy, and then they took out some lymph nodes.
Okay. Then what happened?
And then in 2017, I had woke up one day and just saw a change on my right side that wasn't right. Went to the oncologist. He sent me to the surgeon who put me through some tests. And an MRI eventually said that I had it back on the right side. So because I had previously had a lumpectomy, it wouldn't have, probably would have left me deformed if I wouldn't have had a complete mastectomy. So that's what I chose to do. And I had a double one because then I thought, well, maybe I'm afraid if it comes back on the other side. So went in. I had gotten a call that they got it all. And then about a week later, the doctor called back and said, well, when it went to the regular lab test, they didn't get it. So they went back in, try to get clear margins again, and that didn't work. So that's when my doctor said, I'm just going to put you on chemo so we don't have to keep going after this. Which I was supposed to start chemo the week of the hurricane 2 years ago. And as I remember, it was that first week of September, and I thought, man, is the hospital going to be open? Am I going to be here with any damage? So I started. And then I went from September till February with the chemo. I had 16 treatments. And after that, they went in again, and then they said they finally got the clear margins. So that was good. Fast forward a little bit. on September the following year. I had a reconstruction, pretty involved one. It's called a deep flap, where they take the bottom half of your stomach and cut you from hip to hip, and then use the fat from your belly to make your breasts.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty long, involved recovery.
Mm.
Probably the most painful thing ever.
Mm.
And so that was September, and I kept having a problem with a wound under my right side not healing properly.
Mm-hmm.
And then about probably it was maybe June or July the next year, my oncologist said, that's just funny. It's not healing right. Let's do another MRI. So we did. And that's when they discovered that the cancer came back, and it was in that wound that didn't heal. It was in my sternum, and it was in my lymph nodes on both sides. But it was weird because I never had it in my lymph nodes the 2 times they took it out when I did the surgery. So that was a bummer. So I went through a whole another round of testing, bone scans, ultrasound, PET scan, and then they discovered a few months later, it was in my upper thoracic spine too. So I'm on some oral medicine now, and when I asked that if I had to redo chemo, he said no. I take some oral pills, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And that's supposed to be so your blood cells can recover, because it's an immunosuppressant. And then I get a shot every month along with an infusion. The shot is like an endocrine or estrogen blocker,
Mm-hmm.
and then the infusion is a bone strengthener, because the shot, when it takes all the estrogen out of your body, it could damage your bones, and the shot's supposed to build it up again. So yeah, and then when I found out I had it again, I ran around. I went to Atlanta and to Mayo Clinic just for other opinions, to make sure what the right thing to do with my treatment was, because I was scared, because it's forever now. It's, you hear a metastasis, it's like, yikes.
Yeah.
How long do I have to live? So, but anyway, so all the doctors that I saw pretty much agreed on the type of treatment I'm getting now.
Good.
And I've had scans every 3 months, and so far they've been good, that it's stable. So I'm happy about that.
You're in a good place.
Yeah, right now we're all good. Yeah.
What has helped you get through this?
My friends. I couldn't have done it without them. So I'm single. I have my pets, and last year, when my dad was ill, he couldn't really help much. He wasn't able to drive anymore, and pretty much stayed in his house until, and then he had passed away in March of last year. So I was the trustee of his estate, and, was in charge of getting his house cleaned out and doing all his estate business. So, that was in March, and then when I found out in August that this all came back, it was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? But, the day I got the call that I had the Mets, 4 of my friends came right over and brought pizza and wine, and we just sat there, and they did everything they could do to make me feel better. So,
Good.
So that was great.
It's a base of support.
Yeah.
Is one of the keys,
Mm-hmm.
from what I understand, to making sure that you emotionally, psychologically can have the strength to get through.
Yeah. I have a very, very supportive work where I work too, has been very supportive of me and always said, you do what you need to do to get better. Your job is going to be here. And, so I was very thankful for that.
Good. And this runs up into last year, and last year was not a good year for you.
Yeah, so, and I think, so we had my dad pass away in March. I got the metastasis diagnosis in August. And then my brother passed away, I think it was I can't remember if it was October or November. I had seen him just 2 weeks before. He came by, and I was down working on my father's house, cleaning it out, and he lived on the same street. And a neighbor had come over and said, hey, I haven't been able to get a hold of him in the past couple days. And so I didn't have a key, so I just called the sheriff for just a wellness check, and they went in, and, unfortunately they found that he had passed. So, that was, I was surprising, because I had just seen him, and everything seemed to be going along fine. He had plans and whatever. So, yeah, that was a little bit more stress put on the plate. And, what do? You try to... I started doing acupuncture. I was getting more massages, trying to learn how to meditate and be calm and breathe and, rely on my friends till I got to the point where I was like, okay, everything with my health is in a good position, and, press on. I think maybe trying to work on my father's house and get it taken care of helped me focus on something else other than my health. So.
And that's important too.
Yeah.
But you just didn't need anything else happening in 2019.
No, I was like, okay, I've had enough, and I'm not a regular churchgoer, but I just kept, my mom had passed away in 2003, so I guess I was kind of praying, to my folks and to God, saying, please let it be a better 2020 for me. So,
So it turned 2020. And what did you decide to do?
So in November, Thanksgiving was coming up and stuff. So I called, I had decided to do this 23andMe DNA thing because my dad had always had a big family. It was a big Italian family. He had 4 brothers and sisters. And over the years, we had really lost touch with them. And so, I thought maybe I'll find some cousins or whatever else. My dad was the youngest, and when he passed away, he was 100 years old. So, I knew there wasn't going to be anybody, aunts and uncles. I knew it was going to be cousins or whatever. So, I remember on January 1st, I was driving over to my dad's house, as I did, to check on things. And I happened to look at my email, and it said my results were back. So I took a look, and it said, my genetic makeup said British, Irish, French, and German. And so I initially thought, well, that's weird because my father is Italian. What's happening there? And then there's another part you click on that says your projected family tree, and it said I had a half sister. So I was shocked. I mean, you couldn't have, I don't know, I just couldn't have dreamed that up in a million years. So I wrote her that night, and she got back to me that night, which I was really happy about. And I could read to you what she said. It's really interesting. And she said, this is unbelievable. I learned a few years ago my mom put a baby up for adoption the day Kennedy was assassinated. I'm 51 and only learned a few years ago. She was young and unmarried at the time, and her mom sent her to Florida to have the baby. And after she did, she returned to Illinois. I've been looking for a sibling for a long time. I'm an only child, and I live in Virginia near Washington, D.C. I would love to talk to you if you're willing. So I think that didn't necessarily process, because I thought if I had a half sister, my dad traveled for NASA, and I thought maybe he, was with somebody else. But when she said about her mom, I thought, what does that mean? It didn't process. And then we exchanged a few emails, and I sent her my phone number, and she did call me that night. And she went on to say about her mom was 19. She had been with a gentleman from the Army. They had dated a little bit. She was shocked to find out she was pregnant. Her parents sent her away down here, as they did in those days, and sent to live with her aunt and uncle. So in Rockledge, Florida, of all places, where I live now, she came here. So anyway, she went to have her baby at Ustav Hospital. And she says they whisked me away, and she didn't even know until I contacted Shelly, my new sister, if I was a boy or a girl. So I would have loved to know how that happened, that they got me, because all these years I've gone on cruises and whatever, passport, and you need to have your birth certificate. Who was on there? My mom and dad. So I never had any inkling that this had happened. I knew that when I was cleaning my father's house out, I looked at every piece of paper, because I was trying to find life insurance policies and his investments and things for the estate matters, and I could get that taken care of. And there were several places where there were some old photo albums and things shoved in there that I never saw. And so I found my brother had a baby book with his birth announcement. It had cards that my mom had gotten congratulating her on her pregnancy and different things. And I was like, oh, well, I never saw one of those for me. What does that mean? Whatever, second kid, maybe they didn't, So I guess I kind of put that out of my mind, but in thinking back, maybe that's why. And I mean, I do have, had a bunch of baby pictures. So I imagine when they got me, it was when I was a baby. And so I've also been found out who my biological mom is. We've been messaging each other a lot on Facebook. And she said that, every year around my birthday is November 26th. So, you always see during that week, Kennedy and the anniversary of it. So she said whenever she would see that, she would think about me and wonder what happened. So now I guess it's kind of like mystery solved. My sister said the way she had found out is that she talked to her aunt, who I think she said she was in her last days, and she had somewhat of dementia, but she would have moments of clarity. And one day when she was visiting her, she said, hey, your mom had a baby, when she was 19. So she didn't know that. So she got home, kind of grilled her mom about it, and The first time she asked, she said no. And then I'm not sure if her aunt brought it up again or whatever, but I guess the next time she asked her, she said, well, yeah, that's what happened. So she said she hired a private investigator to try to find me. And she had learned that she found out who my father was, and that she learned that adoptions are closed in Florida. So I guess they're very hard to get. So that didn't really turn up anything. So she had told me, if you wouldn't have done this test, I would have never found you. So skip forward a couple of months, we've talked several times. We message each other. I think I got about 10 Facebook friend requests. Other cousins, my sister has 2 kids, and they just seem like a really beautiful family. And apparently they were all pitching in to try to help find me, and gosh, it's, just amazing. And to think somebody was looking for me, and I just happened to do it. So, very happy because she's supposed to come next week, and she's gonna spend a few days with me, and I just can't wait to meet her.
All this time.
Yeah, it's pretty. Of my friends I've told, of course it's really kind of an incredible story. My dad never said anything. My mom never said anything. My brother never said anything. My dad had pretty high level security in NASA, so I'm sure he was used to keeping secrets. And, how do I feel about that? I don't know. It almost makes me love them more that they took me in and always made me feel like family, and there was no difference between me and anybody else.
I was going to ask, how does that make you feel about your parents now, knowing that they accepted you as their first child?
I would have been second because my brother was 8 years older.
Oh, he was that much older?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But that their desire for a second child, a bigger family,
yeah,
brought them to adopting you.
Yeah, I had asked my sister. I kind of wondered if they knew each other from working together, but she said she thought her uncle owned a car lot or something. So I don't know. Who knows if my dad knew them somehow to hook up, or
So Rockledge wasn't just random. They had a family member here to backstop.
Yeah, my mother was sent here to live with her aunt and uncle. While she was, finishing her pregnancy. And I do know my dad was Catholic, so I think back in the day, Catholic Charities was big in adoptions. And I don't know, unfortunately my parents both died, so I don't know what the conversation was, and I don't know how it happened, but it doesn't surprise me because of how giving and wonderful my parents were. My brother had a baby that he, couldn't raise because of his financial situation. They took her in and raised my niece from when she was 1.5 years old. And, she's 36 now. And my dad was dad to her, and she was never made to feel any different. So it's definitely in my dad's DNA to just love unconditionally. And I feel so lucky.
What does this do for your love of your father?
gosh, I love him so much more. And he took me in. I never knew a difference in me, my brother, my niece. We were all the same. And he's amazing. I just keep thinking he had a big family, and my dad was my best friend growing up. I mean, him and I were doing stuff all the time. You know, I'd want to walk around the block. He'd follow me in his bicycle. He got a boat. We were going out on the boat every weekend, riding around. We'd go camping on the boat. We'd go water skiing, fishing from the backyard. You know, I had everything. My parents just gave me everything. And when I haven't spoken to my biological mother yet, but we message each other on Facebook, and she said, you know, she feels bad about it. And I said, hey, don't feel bad. I had a wonderful life. I had everything I wanted, and I had the most dedicated parents possible. So
she too was looking out for you.
Yeah, really. She somehow put me in the hands of a wonderful situation. So I'm very grateful. Very grateful for that.
What now? Now that, as you ended last year, you face the possibility of just not really any family, and everything had passed away, and it must not have been it could not have been a very comforting situation in terms of looking at your own future.
Yeah, Thanksgiving was pretty lousy, you know, because we would always go to my dad's house. I mean, no matter what, all the big holidays were at his house. And I always knew I had some place to go, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas. So I didn't really have where to go this year, but because I have really good friends, they, of course, you'd have 10 people calling you. What are you doing? You're coming to my house, you know? So it's like, gosh, I never had so many choices, you know? My good friend Christy had me at her house for Thanksgiving, where she had all her family. There was like 20 people there. And Christmas, my friend Ann invited me over for Christmas dinner with her. But I had several other invites for that too. But, and they're appreciated, but you always kind of feel like you're invading someone else's privacy when you're not family. And my niece and I aren't close. She, you know, kind of does her own thing. So, but
in general, holidays under those circumstances.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. You know, of course, my birthday too is Thanksgiving week. So, but now that this has happened, I feel so hopeful. I feel like it's almost as if a chapter in my life closed. And because my dad's house, we sold it. It had the closing on January 10th. So it's like, shut that chapter, put that book away. And guess what? God gave me a brand new life. So I feel like the future is unlimited now.